Welcome to another edition of Dave Smith Unleashed. And boy, every day, you know, when you open up the internet or look at the newspaper or wherever you get your sports news sources, it just seems like something great happens. And wow. Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark. I read something today that I'm going to get to this in a few minutes. It is absolutely unbelievable, and it just blows the whole narrative off the fact that they're equal and equally responsible for the popularity of the league, and Angel's just as good a player as Caitlin. Dave Smith Unleashed brought to you by MTS Transportation, 800-640-6873. For reliable, on-time delivery, compliance you can count on, round-the-clock support, superior communication, experienced logistics partners, and mention the Dave Smith Unleashed podcast and get 20% off on your next shipment. So for all your trucking, freight, and shipping needs, you need nobody else but MTS Transportation at 800-640-6873. Now, I've taken to calling Angel Reese Jussie Smollett. Remember Jussie, the actor, a couple of years ago in Chicago? 2 o'clock in the morning, he's walking down a street in Chicago, and he claimed he was jumped by MAGA supporters and beaten up. Now, of course, Chicago voted, I think, around 90% against Trump back then. And in that neighborhood, which was mostly African-American, to think that there'd be people in MAGA hats running around beating up black people late at night is absolutely ridiculous. And then it turned out, of course, that he was making the whole story up. And he paid a couple of guys from Africa to slap him around a little bit because he thought it would be good publicity for his acting career. He was caught in a lie. He should have gone to prison, but because of Chicago politics and some help from people in Washington, D.C., he wound up not going to jail, unfortunately, which he should have. But because of that blatant hoax, that racist hoax that he put up, it kind of reminds me now of Angel Reese, which is why I call her Angel Jussie Smollett Reese at this point. Now, let's talk about a little history here. Last June in 2024, the Chicago Sky were in town in Indianapolis to play the Indiana Fever. So the team bus pulls up to their hotel. And then after that, all hell broke loose. Angel Reese claimed that a Caitlin Clark, Indiana Fever fan, a racist, ran up and started harassing the players on the bus with racial slurs, harassed her black teammates. Then he stormed the bus and blocked the exit so none of the players could get out. Again, hurling racial slurs. Fortunately for Angel and some of the other players like Kennedy Carter, who tried to make this claim as well, the fan in question recorded the whole thing on his cell phone, and it turned out to be a complete hoax. A Jussie Smollett-style lie, trying to stir up the fans of racial hatred. All the guy did was ask Kennedy Carter, "Have you approached Caitlin Clark and tried to talk to her?" That's all he said. So the thing turned out to be a lie and a hoax and something that never happened, and that was strike one against Angel Reese and some of her teammates. Completely made it up. 2 weeks ago, we saw what happened in Indiana again, don't we? Again, against the Indiana Fever and their fans. Caitlin Clark takes a take foul against Angel Reese, and then she flops and falls to the floor and gets up and acts like she wants to fight. It's called a flagrant, so then she goes to the free throw line and misses, and the fans are booing and hissing her. I guess it's racist now to boo an opposing player at the free throw line. And then, unbelievably, and any of us who saw it at the time knew this didn't happen. But then after the game, she said fans were issuing racial slurs at her, and they were making monkey noises. And Angel Jussie Smollett Reese said, "Well, this should not happen in our league. Stuff like this should never, ever happen." Well, yeah, because it didn't happen. Another hoax, another race-baiting hoax, another lie from Angel Reese, just like the one a year before in Indiana. Boy, and the WNBA, they launched an investigation immediately, even with no evidence. And we all saw the replay that night. What happened was she missed a free throw, and when opposing players miss free throws, the Indiana Pacers PA announcer, they always play a little canned laugh track tape because like a cartoon. They do that. It's all in fun and to taunt the opposing players. They do it to everybody who's at the free throw line. But Angel tried to sell it. They were making monkey noises. It was a monkey noise, and it was a racial slur directed at me. Again, impugning the character of Indiana Fever fans, even though a year before, she said a racist Caitlin Clark fan stormed the bus and used racial slurs against her and her teammates, and it never happened. That was another hoax, another lie. Well, the WNBA launched an investigation immediately with this one 2 weeks ago, and boy, they so desperately wanted it to be true. They were so eager for this to be true because, the WNBA and the media are agenda-driven. They want to do whatever they can to bring down Caitlin Clark and to build up Angel Reese. That's their whole point of existence. But then, as I pointed out at the time, and what turned out to be the truth, it didn't happen. The monkey noise didn't happen. The racial slur didn't happen. Another lie from Angel Jussie Smollett Reese. Now, was she made to apologize? No, not yet. Was she suspended? No, not yet. Does this violate the WNBA's no space for hate policy, which they bragged about after the game? Remember, they released a statement after the false charges made by Angel Reese. The WNBA does not tolerate hate, discrimination, or racism of any kind, and it has no place in society or in our league. Unless your name is Caitlin Clark, of course, then the racism and the discrimination and the hate are encouraged and applauded if it's against her. Against Angel Reese, no, but again, it never happened. And you know what was amazing? After the game the other night, when the Chicago Sky lost their fourth game in a row, and Reese again played horribly, going 3 for 9 from the floor and missing layup after layup. You see, you think this is a big story, right? Just hours before the game, the story was released that the WNBA closed their investigation. There was nothing to it. No racial slurs were yelled, and it was a hoax. But not one single question from the corrupt, hypocritical, lying media to Angel Reese after the game. Well, Angel, it didn't happen. It was a hoax. Not one racial slur was issued. What do you have to say? You want to defend yourself, and you lied last year about the team bus thing. Of course there wasn't. Can you imagine if Caitlin Clark had said something similar? Not only would she be questioned, not only would she be grilled, she'd probably be thrown out of the league and imprisoned if that happened. But because they're pushing, the media pushes an agenda instead of trying to get to the facts and trying to report the story, which is why we hate them so much. And by the way, in that first incident, let's use some common sense here. If a fan actually stormed the bus and he was yelling racial slurs and he stood right by the exit and didn't allow the players to exit the bus and they were all scared, and it was some racist Caitlin Clark fan in Indiana, we saw the videotape that the accused man made. There were bodyguards there. There was Indiana law enforcement. There was arena security there all over the place. Don't you think this guy would have been grabbed and tackled and taken straight to jail and arrested? He's yelling racial slurs at the Sky players, blocking the bus, threatening them, storming the... Of course he would have been arrested. Why wasn't he? Because it never happened. It was a hoax. It was a lie. Again, from Angel Jussie Smollett Reese. And not asked a single question after the fourth consecutive loss. Even though just hours earlier, the story broke about the WNBA finding nothing, that it was another hoax, another lie by Angel Reese. And now we have this. After that game in Indianapolis a couple of weeks ago, Angel Reese reposted a racist TikTok video ridiculing Caitlin Clark because of the color of her skin. Scared little white girl was the quote. Scared little white girl. Again, mentioning race, mentioning her skin color, and ridiculing her. Doesn't that violate the no space for hate policy, WNBA? Where's your investigation on that? Where are your questions about that, media? Of course, nothing. And then we got the same statement again. The WNBA stands against hate, prejudice, and racism, and there's no place for it in the WNBA or society. Okay. Well, if that's the case, why wasn't Angel Reese suspended for reposting that racist TikTok video if you have a no space for hate policy? And while we're at it, what's going to happen to Brittany Griner in the Atlanta Dreams game against the Fever the other day? Remember, the cameras caught her on the bench, and you read her lips and you saw what she said, directed at Caitlin Clark. Trash effing white girl. Trash effing white girl. Has he been suspended? Nope. Has there been a league investigation? Nope. Have there been any questions about it? Nope. The hypocrisy and the double standards. I would say I'm surprised and I would say I'm shocked, but we're so used to it at this point. The double standard is against Caitlin Clark. The racism is against Caitlin Clark. The no space for hate should be brought up against Angel Reese and Brittany Griner. But here's the big one. I had to laugh at when I read this morning. Now, we keep hearing, well, Angel Reese is historic, even though she can't play, even though she stinks as a basketball player. You know, I've often said I think Angel Reese might be the worst basketball player I've ever seen. And I've seen Mark Landsberger. I've seen Mike Smrek growing out here in L.A. I've seen Chuck Nevitt. And I always thought Mark Landsberger was the worst post player I've ever seen. Back when he played for the Lakers, the great Chick Hearn would announce the games. He'd get the ball in the post and start to back in, and Chick would say, Mark, don't do it. Don't do it, Mark. He's going to get the shot blocked. He backs in. He's going to get the shot blocked. There it is, shot blocked. Chick would see it coming a mile away. But he's Akeem Olajuwon and Kevin McHale compared to Angel Reese down in the post. I mean, it is hilarious watching her highlights. Her footwork is so bad. She's always off balance. She can't make a layup. She gets half of her shots blocked. I mean, by a mile last year and by a mile this year. She leads the NBA in getting her shots blocked and missing layups. It is hilarious to watch this. She is terrible. But this is fantastic. This is what I wanted to talk about today on Dave Smith Unleashed. Now, the Indiana Fever and the Chicago Sky are having a rematch on June 7th. Remember, their first game a couple of weeks ago, it was a blowout 35-point win for the Indiana Fever. But here's the rematch on June 7th, and it was expected to be a sellout. It was going to be a hot ticket to see the rematch between the Fever and the Sky. Angel Reese against Caitlin Clark. According to the media, equals as players. Equally responsible for the popularity of the WNBA with the attendance and the television ratings, which is nonsense, of course, BS, of course. In no universe is Angel Reese even close to Caitlin Clark as a basketball player. She shouldn't even be mentioned in the same breath. Unless, of course, you're the biased, agenda-driven, hypocritical WNBA media and ESPN. But this is hilarious. Now, Caitlin Clark has a quad injury, and she's not going to be playing June 7th when the Chicago Sky play the Fever. In Chicago, by the way. And here's the great story. Tickets for the game have dropped in value by 80%. They can't give them away now. 80% below face value, and they're going lower than that in some circumstances. Oh, but wait a minute. Wait a minute. Well, why would the ticket prices drop? It's in Chicago. Angel Reese is still playing. We keep being told that she's the next Michael Jordan by ESPN and the WNBA media. That she's just as good, if not better, than Caitlin Clark. That she's equally responsible for the television ratings last year and the jump in attendance, which is complete BS. Because if you look at the games Angel played last year when Caitlin Clark wasn't playing, it's same old WNBA, empty seats and no TV ratings. The only time the league gets any ratings and any attendance is when Caitlin Clark is playing. She is solely and 1,000% responsible for the popularity of the league. Nobody gives a damn about Angel Jussie Smollett Reese. And if Caitlin wasn't in the league, we'd still see empty arenas all over the league and we'd see no television ratings. She's the only reason for the league's popularity. But ticket prices are going for 80% below face value. Well, how is that possible? But we're told that Angel Reese is the equal of Caitlin, that people want to see her. She's the reason arenas are full and television ratings are high. She's equally responsible. Well, if that were the case, wouldn't this game be a sellout? It shouldn't matter that Caitlin Clark isn't playing. Well, we get to see the Michael Jordan of the WNBA, the greatest women's player of all time, according to the media, Angel Jussie Smollett Reese. But no, it proves my point again. Nobody gives one damn about Angel Reese, including Chicago. Because if Caitlin Clark isn't playing, they can't give the tickets away, and they're going for 80% below face value. See, that's just a fact. Wow, could the media be wrong? See, this is why we hate them so much. This is why they're despicable. This is why they're corrupt and hypocritical, and why nobody respects the media anymore. They're pushing an agenda to denigrate and downplay Caitlin Clark and to elevate and praise Angel Reese and to make her into something she's not, which is a good basketball player. What she is a race-baiting liar. We have two examples of that in the last 2 years. And somebody who posts racist TikTok videos, ridiculing another player's skin color, Caitlin Clark. And last I checked, she still had it posted, her repost. Made up a lie about the incident with the bus in the hotel. Made up another lie about the monkey noises and the racist. You know, she owes an apology. She'll never do it because she's insufferable. Angel Reese is entitled. She's an entitled, spoiled brat who's never been held accountable for anything in her life, always playing the victim, always woe is me. She and the WNBA owe the Indiana Fever fans an apology, painting them as racists with the incident with the bus going into the hotel, which wasn't true, and then painting the broad brush again. Oh, look at those Caitlin Clark fans. They were making monkey noises. They were making racial slurs against me while I was at the free throw line. Again, a hoax and a lie. She should apologize to Indiana Fever fans and to basketball fans in general, and the league should apologize. And the league should apologize for launching an investigation immediately, rushing to judgment when they had no evidence. We all heard the tape that night. It wasn't a monkey noise. It was a cartoon laugh when she missed a free throw. And they were booing her. They weren't making racial slurs like they do with any opponent at the free throw line. Just complete and total BS. But I guess we have to learn to expect that now from these loads who cover the WNBA, the media, and ESPN and company. They were so desperate and so hopeful that this story would be true. They launched an investigation without evidence. They launched an investigation knowing that it wasn't true, trying to find something. Oh, now we hear tickets are going for 80% below face value for June 7th for the Chicago Sky against the Indiana Fever. And by the way, the Sky are 0-4 right now. And Angel Reese is putting up one of the worst seasons in recent memory. I thought she was bad last year. She shot 38% from the floor, 18% from three-point range, and by a wide margin, she had more of her shots blocked and more missed layups than any player in the WNBA. She's surpassing that this year. She's shooting 31% from the floor. And I saw a stat the other day. She's shooting under 40% on her layups this year. Imagine that, a 6'3" post player, always around the rim, shooting 31% and less than 40% on her layups. So keep trying to sell us, media, on how great she is, that she's historic, that she's the equal to Caitlin Clark, that Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese were the two players responsible for the jump in ratings and the jump in attendance last year. Keep pushing that lie. It's like the same lies Angel Jessie Smollett Reese has been telling for the last couple of years. And by the way, shouldn't she be suspended by the WNBA under the no space for hate policy? I mean, making up out of whole cloth racist allegations against the good city of Indianapolis and the fans of the Indiana Fever when it never happened, making up a lie like that, and then reposting a TikTok video ridiculing Caitlin Clark for her skin color and calling her a scared little white girl. Well, isn't that a violation of the WNBA no space for hate policy? What about the quote they put out recently after the fake Indiana fans incident? The WNBA stands against hate, prejudice, and racism. There's no place for it in the WNBA or society. Yeah. Unless your name is Caitlin Clark, then it's applauded and encouraged. This is just such nonsense, but it's so funny to see that I was right again. I seem to be always right. That ticket prices 80% below face value for the Sky Fever game coming up on June 7th. And again, well, how can this be possible? She's Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson and Elgin Baylor and Wilt Chamberlain all rolled into one, according to the media, Angel Reese. People line up to buy tickets. They can't wait to see her play. She's the greatest player in the league. Yeah, right. See what happens when Caitlin Clark isn't playing? See that, media? See that, WNBA? You want to denigrate her? You want to bring her down? You just keep doing it. Look what happens. She's the only reason anybody watches. That's it for another edition of Dave Smith Unleashed. And make sure you give MTS Transportation a call for all your freight and shipping needs. 800-640-6873 for reliable, on-time delivery, compliance you can count on, round-the-clock support, superior communication, experienced logistics partners, and mention the Dave Smith Unleashed podcast and get 20% off on your next shipment. So if you want to know when the next Dave Smith Unleashed is going to come out, follow me on Twitter. At Dave Sports God. At Dave Sports God. I'm always posting when the next show is going to be up. So we'll talk to you then on the next edition of Dave Smith Unleashed.